The first thing anyone noticed was the silence. Not the ordinary lull between lunch and dinner, but a strange, pressing stillness that seemed to hold its breath. It settled over the small roadside diner, just seconds after the disabled woman asked a simple question that would change everything. "Can I sit here?" At first, no one thought much of it. But within an hour, 5 black SUVs would roll in and bring the entire place to a standstill. Before we dive into this emotional story, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of ordinary people, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Heartfelt Stories. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. It was a bright afternoon, sunlight pouring to the dusty windows of the diner, casting long golden stripes across the worn wooden floor. The air smelled of fresh bread and fried onions, the kind of comforting scent that made strangers feel less alone, even if only for a moment. Behind the counter, Arif Malik moved quickly but quietly, balancing trays, refilling coffee, and checking on customers with a gentle attentiveness that came from years of hardship rather than training. Arif wasn't just a waiter. He was a single father raising a 7-year-old daughter named Meher. Every morning before sunrise, he would prepare her lunch, braid her hair with clumsy fingers, and walk her to school before starting his shift. By the time the diner opened, he'd already lived half a day, but he never complained. His exhaustion lived quietly behind his kind smile. That afternoon had been particularly slow. A few truck drivers occupied the corner booths, and an elderly couple shared a pot of tea near the window. Arif had just wiped down an empty table when the bell above the door chimed softly. She entered slowly. The woman looked fragile, her movements careful and deliberate. She leaned slightly on a sleek metal crutch, her left leg clearly weakened. Her clothes were simple but elegant. Soft beige fabric neatly pressed, paired with a light scarf that framed her pale face. Her eyes, though tired, carried something deeper. Strength, pain, and something unspoken. Arif noticed immediately, the way he always noticed people others overlooked. The diner fell into a brief, uncomfortable silence. A couple of customers glanced at her, then quickly looked away. It wasn't cruelty, just the awkwardness people often feel when confronted with someone else's visible struggle. The woman scanned the room, hesitating slightly, as if unsure whether she belonged there. Then her eyes met Arif's. He gave her a small, reassuring nod. She made her way toward an empty booth, but just before sitting, she paused and looked at him again. "Can I sit here?" It was such a simple question. But there was something in her voice, a hesitation that suggested she had been told no too many times before. Arif didn't just nod this time. He stepped forward, gently pulling the chair back to make it easier for her. "Of course," he said softly. That small act, so ordinary to him, meant everything to her. Her name was Syra Qureshi, though no one in the diner knew it yet. To them, she was just another customer. But Syra carried a past heavier than anyone could see, a past of loss, betrayal, and a life that had been rebuilt piece by fragile piece. As she settled into the booth, Arif handed her a menu, but she barely glanced at it. Instead, her eyes drifted around the diner, lingering on small details, the chip paint, the handwritten menu board, the laughter of a child passing by the window. It felt real. Arif returned with a glass of water and noticed her distant expression. "Take your time," he said gently. She nodded, offering a faint smile. Minutes passed. The rhythm of the diner resumed. Plates clinked, conversations resumed, and the earlier silence dissolved. But something had shifted, even if no one could name it yet. When Arif returned to take her order, Syra finally spoke more clearly. Her voice carried a quiet elegance, but also a softness shaped by pain. She ordered something simple, tea and a small meal, and thanked him with sincerity that felt rare in a place like this. As he walked away, Arif couldn't help but notice how carefully she held herself, as if the world had taught her to take up as little space as possible. The afternoon wore on. Arif served tables, cleaned spills, and checked his phone once to see a message from Meher, just a drawing of a sun and a heart. It made him smile. At Syra's table, something subtle began to change. The tension in her shoulders eased. She sipped her tea slowly, as if savoring not just a taste, but the peace of being somewhere she wasn't judged or rushed. It had been a long time since she felt that. Then, just as Ara brought her bill, it happened. The low rumble of engines outside cut through the calm. One SUV pulled up, then another, then three more. 5 black SUVs, sleek and imposing, lined up outside the diner. Their arrival was too deliberate, too synchronized to be ignored. Every head turned. The diner fell silent again, but this time it wasn't awkward. It was tense. The doors of the SUVs opened almost in unison. Men in dark suits stepped out, their movements precise, their expressions unreadable. They didn't look like ordinary visitors. Inside, whispers began to ripple. Ara felt his chest tighten. He had seen enough life to recognize when something wasn't right. But what happened next surprised everyone. The men didn't storm in. They waited. And then, one by one, they walked inside, not with aggression, but with purpose. The leader, a tall man with composed demeanor, scanned the room before his eyes landed on Syra. His expression changed instantly. Respect replaced authority. He approached her slowly, stopping a few feet away. And then, something no one expected. He bowed his head slightly. In that moment, the entire diner seemed to freeze. Syra looked up, her calm returning like a shield. The truth, long hidden behind her quiet presence, was beginning to reveal itself. She wasn't just another customer. She was the heir to a powerful business empire, a woman who had disappeared from public life after a tragic accident that left her physically injured and emotionally scarred. For months, rumors had spread. Some said she had left the country. Others believed she had given up everything. But the reality was far more human. She had been searching for something money couldn't buy. And somehow, she had found it here, in a small diner, with a single father who treated her like she mattered. Not because of who she was, but because of who she appeared to be. The men spoke quietly to her, their urgency clear but controlled. There was business to attend to, responsibilities waiting, a world that demanded her return. But Syra didn't rush. She looked at Ariv, and in that look was something powerful, gratitude, recognition, and a silent acknowledgement of the kindness he had shown without expectation. Ariv stood still, unsure what to say, unsure what was unfolding before him. He had no idea that his simple gesture had meant so much. Syra slowly reached into her bag and placed something on the table. Not money, not a business card, but a handwritten note. She stood carefully, supported by her crutch, and prepared to leave. The men stepped back respectfully, creating space for her rather than controlling it. Before walking out, she turned one last time, her eyes meeting ours again. There was a softness there now, a quiet strength, and then she was gone. The SUVs disappeared as quickly as they had arrived. The diner slowly came back to life, but something had changed. Arv approached the table, his hands slightly trembling as he picked up the note. He unfolded it carefully. Inside were just a few words. Kindness saved me when nothing else could. Thank you for seeing me. Below it was a name, Syra Qureshi, and a number. Days passed. Ara didn't call immediately. Life was still busy, still demanding. Meher needed him. Bills needed paying. The diner still opened at dawn. But something stayed with him. A quiet reminder that even the smallest act of kindness could ripple into something unimaginable. Eventually, he did call, not out of hope for change, but out of simple curiosity. And what followed wasn't sudden transformation or a dramatic rise to wealth. It was something more meaningful. Syra returned, not as a powerful figure, but as a friend. She helped quietly, supporting R's dream of giving Meher a better future. Not with grand gestures, but with thoughtful ones. Education opportunities, stability, guidance. She didn't rescue him. She respected him. And Arv didn't idolize her. He saw her. 2 lives, both marked by struggle, found something rare in each other. Understanding. And it all began with a question. Can I sit here? If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even the smallest kindness can change someone's entire world, please take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your support helps keep stories like this alive.